FromSoftware has had a history of making striking and unique games, most popular of which being titles like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring amongst others. Now, Monster Hunter has always had visuals and gameplay with aspects that would lend itself well to the Souls series. Giant and terrifying monsters, striking lore-filled areas, accompanied by combat that focuses on positioning and timing. This has led many fans to be curious to see what a FromSoftware version of a Monster Hunter game would look like. Would it be dark and gritty, even more so than the earlier Monster Hunter games? Would they fill it with big dungeon-like areas? What would their twist on Monster Hunter designs look like? Well, if you want to know what a Monster Hunter game created by FromSoftware looks like, you're in luck. In the year 2010, shortly after making their first Souls title ever, Demon Souls, they were the sole developers for a Monster Hunter title to be published by Capcom. And what game was that exactly? It was Monster Hunter Diary Poka Poka Iru Village for the PlayStation Portable. Yes, they really made this. The Dark Souls of Monster Hunter games. Monster Hunter Diary is a spin-off game that was only released in Japan and was met with huge success following its release. Set in a world inside a storybook, you take on the role of an Iru, which is basically another way of saying feline, who wakes up on an island that needs to be converted into a thriving village. I think by the aesthetics alone, I don't believe most people would have immediately jumped to this game as being developed by FromSoftware, especially after beginning their Souls era of video games. But for some godforsaken reason, they took on the monumental task of making this Monster Hunter title. And I was determined to find out what this game was like. Surely there were elements to it that would make it apparent it was created by FromSoft, right? Being a Japan exclusive, and not being popular enough in the West to be fan-translated, meant there wasn't an easy way for the typical Western gamer to play through this dialogue-heavy game. But that didn't stop me from popping out the old Google Translate app to decipher the mysteries of Monster Hunter Diary Poka Poka Iru Village. So with much excitement, I dove into the game. Immediately, I'm met with some ethereal music while I create my Iru. Gotta go with the cute blue color. I can name my village, and I had to name mine Quahog, of course. I met with an elder and his partner who wants me dead for sleeping in. Basically, they tell me that I need to get my ass in gear and turn this island into a bustling village. They finish talking with me and burrow into the ground. These NPCs love digging into the pits of hell after speaking with me in this game. It is kind of terrifying. I can finally control my character now. You can walk and run, and if you stay idle, you're met with an insane variety of idle animations. You can also change your expression with the D-pad as well. Cute. You'll also notice that there's a big meter on the top left. Basically, when that fills up, it means your day is over and you're brought into a new day. Certain things can only be done once per day, and certain NPCs only visit temporarily, so it's definitely something to keep your eye on. I meet a character here that lets me turn the items I find into points to spend on expanding the village. I can also give certain items to NPCs to increase our bond with each other. The notification for finding a rare item is terrifying, by the way. In the next area is a familiar NPC that welcomes me to this place. Next to him is an adult cat wearing a Poogie hat and a diaper. He's just like me for real. So these little felines have quests for me sometimes, and this one is asking me to find his Poogie. Wait, Poogie's in this game? Say no more. The elder and his friends show up often to quiz me, which I don't quite like. They're cramping my style, man. After the end of our first day, I experienced the closest thing to Dark Souls this game offers, and that's the fact that we're sitting by a bonfire. FromSoft, you've done it again. I met the kitty granny who I can hire some friends from, and I finally meet my best friend, Poogie. You can pick him up and even use him as a mount to run around with. Later on in the game, you can even do races with him. Incredible. I finished the quest where I returned Poogie to the cat, but I still got to keep him. I met with a bunch of quests in this area, most of which require me to do some fishing, and fishing is exactly what I'm gonna do, goddammit. It's like a mix of fishing from regular Monster Hunter games and Animal Crossing combined. One fishing bait lets you fish 20 fishies in this game. You can also find these mining oil things that you can use to bribe your way into doing some mining in the nearby cave, once our friend here blows up the rock in the way, of course. As the days passed, I fished, mined, finished up quests, and eventually accumulated enough points to create a guild, which is this big tent here. Once I found the receptionist, it was time to finally tackle the meat of the game, which is going on expeditions. Essentially a way to find even rarer materials by going to new places and hunting monsters. It's finally time. I can't wait to see FromSoftware's take on hunting monsters. And it was nothing like I expected whatsoever. You essentially give certain commands to your cats through button prompts to do things like stay back and rest, or attack, or even time their jumps to avoid getting hit. I didn't have enough warrior companions to successfully take on this Velocidrome, unfortunately. To be honest, I got destroyed. The combat isn't what I expected at all, but it is very unique and cute to say the least. Although I personally think hunting them like a regular Monster Hunter game would have been a lot more fun for me, perhaps that would have been a bit too extreme for a game in this style though. That's as far as I got with my personal playthrough. I now understand the main gameplay loop and have seen what I needed to see now that I fought my first monster. I still wanted to see what other monsters they offered though, and what the game looked like when you progress a lot further in. There's plenty of monsters to fight with your swarm of feline companions. You could launch them at Rathian or a much larger Lagiacrus. I kinda like how certain monsters look in this more cutesy style, particularly the big ones. You can even fight the much larger Lao Shan Lung, which appears to be the largest monster in the game. The combat is very reminiscent of the Palico minigame you would do in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate in the West to gain scraps for Palico armor. Perhaps this was inspired by Monster Hunter Diary. There are plenty of feline NPCs that can show up for you to recruit. In total, you can make up to 77 kitty friends. While doing that, you can fill your village with animals like Popo in the farm, get yourself a chef, farm vegetables, amongst many other activities that bring your island to life. If I were to compare this game to any others, I would say that this is essentially Monster Hunter Animal Crossing, with hints of Patapon for the combat, sans the rhythm of course. Something neat I found was that you can actually bring in your save file from Monster Hunter Freedom to import your feline from that game into Monster Hunter Diary to go along hunting with you once again. You can also collect armor from the NPCs you befriend to wear as you wish. In regards to the whole game, honestly, despite it being quite simple in its gameplay, it's quite addicting and fun. Searching around for rare items, fishing, mining to enhance your village and get more feline companions, to ultimately go hunting together makes for a good time, especially if you're a Monster Hunter fan. I can understand why this game got so popular because shortly after it had a G expansion, similar to how mainline games would. It was released with its own bundle with a very cute lilac PSP that I would die for. Monster Hunter Diary also had a collaboration with Sanrio to introduce some really cute Hello Kitty stuff in the game. You can even change your guild tent into a big Hello Kitty head. It seems like they were on good terms with Animal Crossing since there was a collaboration with them as well. I didn't think FromSoftware had it in them to create such a cozy and strikingly different experience compared to their typical repertoire of games, but here it is. They must have loved working on it because 5 years later, they would also develop Monster Hunter Diary Poka Poka Iru Village DX for the 3DS, which introduced a cast of even more monsters and wacky, goofy, fun things to do. Hey, maybe there's a bunch of deep lore and storytelling hidden within the aspects of Monster Hunter Diary games. Who knows? So where does Monster Hunter go from here? Will we get another Monster Hunter Diary game by FromSoft? Well, I'd say at the very least, Capcom and FromSoft's relationship could at least warrant some sort of collaboration in a future Monster Hunter game. And who knows, maybe they could try their hands on a grittier and darker spin-off game. Speaking for myself though, if a Monster Hunter Diary game came out in the West, I would play the shit out of the Dark Souls of Monster Hunter games. Thanks for watching.